Good afternoon, class. My name is Jessica Moss, and this is Dr. Moses' Ethical Decision Making in Sports and Activity, HPER 6243 class, here in the spring 2017 semester at Henderson State University under the Sports Administration graduation program. I'll be presenting my sports philosophy final video for the course, and I hope you guys enjoy what I present. So let's just jump right on in. I'm going to give you guys a view that is easier for you guys to see. Okay, so just a little bit of overview upon my presentation. The 3 points that I will be comparing and contrasting today are performance-enhancing drugs, violence in sports, and Title IX ethics. Like I said, I'll be comparing and contrasting these current events in sports that are going on today to events and topics that we've been going over throughout the course of this semester, just to kind of give you guys a general idea of decision-making processes in sports. So just to move along, the two that I'll be comparing and contrasting for performance-enhancing drugs are Joakim Noah and Marion Jones. Noah is a professional basketball player who was suspended for 20 games for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy usage. And Marion Jones is an Olympic track star who was sentenced to 6 months in federal prison for admitting to steroid use. So just to give you guys a little bit of background behind Noah's story, he tested positive for a substance that was had similar property to those of anabolic steroids, which are, banned from the use of athletes within the United States Anti-Doping Agency. And the NBA said that in a statement he wouldn't appeal the suspension, so he has to go along through with the suspension for all 20 games. But it was quoted that it was a regrettable mistake upon his behalf. But they did further investigate and go through with saying that maybe under the newly negotiated act of agreement that is supposed to take effect in July, maybe he wouldn't have been suspended for these 20 games. But later on in the story, the union added that, he's forthcoming and cooperative about, admitting to his steroid use. But he did have a representative go and speak for him. He declined to come and he didn't have anything to say about it. And I would like to compare that with Marion Jones' story, which she never failed a drug test. She was, like I said, an Olympic gold medalist. She never failed a drug test at any time. But Balco is a laboratory co-op that had a distribution of different performance-enhancing drugs, and the allegations began to surface within 2003 that said, that she was using drugs. But like I said before, she's never tested positive for any, but in the year of 2006, she did test positive for a banned substance, and following that year, she had to go on trial for that banned substance use and pleaded guilty to, all the allegations. She admitted to have taken them and everything after that, and was later sentenced to 6 months in federal prison. But before she did go to prison, she, was stripped from her gold medals, and she was annulled from, even running again in the Olympics. But she did have a speech that she put out in front of media, in front of everybody, regretting and admitting to her mistake, that she did make a mistake. So just to kind of compare and contrast those two, within the decision-making process, I feel that ethically correct Jones would be the one who made the most appealing decision within this matter, because of the fact that, like I said, they're both bad because they did use performance-enhancing steroids. But, Noah, he said that he used it because he had a knee injury, and even though Jones didn't really have an exact reason into using them, she did admit, to using them. He did too, but she didn't have a representative to speak before her. She is, a role model. She's seen as a higher stature in the public eye, so she herself went before the people and before the media to admit to her wrongs, and she did sit out the time. in Noah's case, he didn't say anything himself. He sent representatives and commissioners to speak for him. He was only suspended, and he gets to be able to play and be paid upon return after his suspension, whereas Jones, she no longer got to play or run in the Olympics again after hers. So I just feel like within this decision-making process, Jones was a little bit more ethical than Noah. So moving right along, I would like to compare and contrast in Bonds and Sports Chad Ochocinco Johnson with the FAMU marching band. Ochocinco is a professional football player that was sentenced to 30 days in jail for a domestic violence case, while the FAMU marching band in 2011 were a marching band from Florida A&M University, where 12 members were charged with manslaughter in a hazing incident. Just to kind of give you some background behind Chad Ochocinco Johnson, he was a professional football player that was married to a reality TV star. So, you know, they lived most of their life on the networks and on the medias in front of the social eye. And during the altercation that him and his wife had one day, he headbutted her, which, you know, got the laws involved, and it quickly escalated into her filing for divorce, and even for him being immediately released by the Miami Dolphins, which at the time that was the team he was playing for. After going on trial and after everything was, you know, said and done, he did reach a deal with the prosecutors calling for just community service and just for counseling, just to do that instead of going to jail. But, you know, he violated his probation, and he when the judge asked him something in court about, you know, how his attorney or how his lawyers, you know, how he felt about them, he then jokingly, you know, kind of gave him a tap on the butt, saying, you know, this is the best, you know, person that I had to represent me, which then angered the judge, sentencing him to 30 days in jail for that. And I would like to compare his trial with the FAMU marching band trial. A little bit of information behind that. This is Robert Champion. He was the guy that was killed in this hazing incident within, you know, Florida A&M's marching band hazing act. It was an act called Crossing Bus C, and like I said, this is just, you know, I wouldn't say typical, but any other hazing incident that went wrong. Crossing Bus C is just to initiate, you know, a rookie or somebody into the marching band from going from the front of the bus to touching the back wall of the bus, but they're getting beaten and struck, you know, by different people on the van, instruments, by hands, by all different kind of things. But in this case, Robert Champion didn't make it. He made it to the back of the bus, but he didn't make it by keeping his life because of the fact that he did die in this incident. And it said that it was reported to the president of the university and the band director of the FAMU marching band. Neither one of them said that they knew that this type of hazing incident was going on, so therefore, you know, they couldn't have put a stop to it. It could have been stopped, but they couldn't because they claimed that they did not know that it happened. So the decision-making process within these two, I honestly feel as though Chad Ochocinco is a little bit more morally correct in making this decision, his decision-making process. And I don't condone in any violence, period, in sports, in life, anything. But for the fact that nobody did die in his case, I feel like his is more ethically correct. Only because of the fact that while researching this story, he kind of explained that he did the things that he did because he laughed to keep from crying. He tried to keep himself in high spirits, and I can kind of understand as an athlete, maybe that wasn't the most appropriate time for him to, you know, pat his attorney or lawyer on the backside just for, you know, saying, oh yeah, thank you for helping me, this is a good job. I don't think that he should have violated parole because, you know, he should have been going to those counseling, going to those community service hours. But in the same sense, like I said, nobody died. The FAMU marching band members, because it was a school tradition and, you know, neither one of the president or the marching band director knew about it, the 13 members that were charged with third-degree death felonies could have spent 6 years in prison, but they didn't. They were told to pay a fine, I can think of the word. They were told to pay a fine to the parents of Robert Champion that amounted to be $12 million. And a new law of hazing was passed to stop all of that. So just in this, I just feel like Chad Ochocinco was a little bit more ethical in the decision making, only because, like I said, nobody died. And in point, I forgot to point out, excuse me, I can't talk today. I forgot to point out that he did say that he was an advocate for domestic violence situations now in further research that I was looking at. And moving along to my last point, Title IX and ethics, I would like to compare and contrast Serena Williams and the film Let Them Wear Towels. Serena is a professional tennis player, and she is today going under investigation because of alleged advantages of playing while pregnant. And I would like to compare that with the 1977 film released on April 20th, Let Them Wear Towels, because of the history of females working in the male-predominant fields fighting for women's equality. I like to point out that these two incidents did happen on April 20th, which, I don't know, I just kind of find that to be a little bit neat. They both happened April 20th, and that's just something I just kind of looked up and brought up. Just a little bit of background on Serena's story. She was, she brought out to the world, like I said, she's in the media's eye. She brought out to the world that she was 20 weeks pregnant. You know, just one day she just decided to bring that out on that joyous occasion. But this also meant that she was about 2 months pregnant when she won her 23rd Grand Slam title at January's Australian Open. To me, that doesn't really distinguish her from, you know, playing or not, but I'll just get into that a little bit later. So the media is of course under watching her under a microscope, and a professor at the University of Technology reported that, end quote, it is possible that an advantage, particularly due to the cardiovascular changes that happen very early in pregnancy, end quote, could possibly have an advantage of positive impact on Serena while playing. She compared that statement with the study of athletes before, during, and after pregnancy at a Michigan State University's Energy Research Laboratory that found out that 60% increase in blood volume during pregnancy, which also concluded that this could have improved her body's ability to carry oxygen to muscles up to 30% on an elite sportswoman. Like I said, I don't think that really should have had an effect on her playing, but in the media, they will find and dig out anything. And I would like to compare that to Let Them Wear Towels, the film that was based on equal female rights in journalism. Of course, you know, these women are just trying to do their jobs. I understand that the men were naked in the locker room that they were trying to get the stories from, but you know, that's hence where the name comes from, Let Them Wear Towels. But I don't believe that this wasn't a right fight when it came to women not being able to do their jobs, because back in those days, half of the race was left out of different professions because of gender and, you know, even race or color or anything like that, just because of, you know, one stereotype in fact that something is wrong. So just to compare and contrast these two, the decision-making process, the one that I feel like is more ethically correct is both of them. And only because, like, I am a firm believer in Title IX, and I'm thankful for the implementation of Title IX when it was amended, only because of the fact that it gives women different rights that we should, I feel like, already be obligated to. You know, Williams, her story hasn't been concluded yet. Like I said, it's still going on in time today. It just happened recently. But she shouldn't have to be punished because of being, you know, a mother with child. We don't ask, you know, of course there are different actions that can be taken for women not to be pregnant, but we shouldn't have to be looked down upon or being under investigation because we're with child and we're trying to work as women. It just goes to show that we can do different types of things, you know, in the strength of motherhood, through jobs, through work, through anything like that. And just to compare and contrast both the reformation of women's equality in journalism field in the field of sports and let them wear towels, I just feel like the women kept on fighting. They kept on pressing about what it is that they want to get the point across, and working in men fields that are predominantly for them. I think that both of these are ethical decision-making processes, because they both fought for what they, believe was to be right, and women's strength in the end prevailed for both of those. This is just a list of references that I had to go to complete this project. My name is Jessica Moss. Like I said, this is my presentation for Dr. Moses' class, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.